This video will give you the strategy you need in order to direct your money as you get paid. Most people don't follow these steps, but if you do, it will drastically improve your financial position. And that's what we're all about at this channel, trying to improve your financial situation through education. And we do that by creating different series on different economical and financial topics that you can find in the playlist. Make sure you stay here until the end because I will have a special tip for you guys. I'm Aatlas and this is the world of finance. What's up guys, before we start, remember to subscribe, remember to smash that like button and hit the notification bell as well. So have you ever wondered why people are struggling financially even though they make a good salary? It's actually that bad that 40% of all Americans can't afford an emergency expense of $400. And this is due to poor money management skills, which we will teach you in this video and others as well. So before we start with the 5 steps, I would like to cover another subject, that's budgeting. You should definitely be budgeting. If it's a skill that you don't have, don't worry, most people actually don't budget. It's very important that you start budgeting. I would recommend that you create a budget after this video, follow the expenses and correct them as you go along. Do this for 3 months and then you'll have a complete overview of your spending behavior. This will give you the opportunity to better direct where your money goes. And this is very important because if you start building this habit of budgeting and correcting, you'll actually pay more attention to what you're spending your money on. And this will give you a more positive spending behavior, which is very important for what we're going to talk about. So let's get to it. Step number 1. A really quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial planner. You should always consult one before making major investments, and these can typically be found at your local bank. There will always be some amount of risk associated with investments, and it's very important that you understand these before you make any types of investments. So the first step is that you should take some money from your paycheck and pay them into a retirement fund, more specifically a tax-deductible retirement fund. So the amount you should pay into a tax-deductible retirement fund is totally up to you, but you should have some sort of income going in here, and if able, you should max it out. In some cases, they are offered by your employer. If not, you should still create one. So how does a tax-deductible retirement fund work? That totally depends on the kind of plan that you have. You can have a private one or you can have one sponsored by your employer. So this is how the private one works. You can deduct some percentage of the amount that you have paid into your own retirement fund account. This will then be deducted from the amount of tax you have to pay for the next year. This is how an employer-sponsored tax-deductible retirement fund works. They pay into your account before you get paid out your salary, which means that you don't pay tax on that amount that goes into your retirement fund. This will in the end eventually mean that you don't have to pay that much in tax as you would if you just had gotten your paycheck. It's very important to take advantage of all these tax-deductible opportunities that the government gives you in order to create long-term wealth. So make sure to take advantage of them when you have the opportunity to do so. Anything else would be stupidity. So you have now paid into a retirement fund and you've actually gotten your paycheck. The important thing to do now is not to splurge all your money, but actually the second thing you should do is pay yourself first. This is a principle I came across when I read the amazing book, The Richest Man in Babylon. You can pick this up for free if you want. I'll leave a link down in the description for 2 free audiobooks. And this is a book I highly recommend. So what does this book tell us? It tells us that you should pay yourself first. Most experts recommend that you go 5 to 20%. You can always go higher or lower. The important thing, and I can't stress this enough, it's okay, it's fine if you only go 1 or 2%, because the most important thing here is the exercise. It's important that you create some type of habit of saving, of paying yourself first each month before you pay your expenses or other obligations. And it's important because the power of a habit is so strong that before you know it, it will have changed your life completely. And I can't stress enough how important this habit is, because as you go into this habit of paying yourself first, you will eventually, without even noticing it, have created an emergency fund. And as we stated early on in this video, 40% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency expense. So if you start paying yourself and create a habit around it, you will in no time have created an emergency savings account where you can have $500, $400, $600 saved in order to get out of that 40%. If you follow Dave Ramsey's method, you should definitely have an emergency fund of at least $1,000. In most cases, I will recommend going 3 to 6 months. If you're really ambitious, go 12 months of savings. And the important part about savings is that you should have them in something that gives positive interest or dividend. It should be liquid and it should be stable. It means no large market swings. And the reason why your savings should be invested in something liquid and stable is because you should be able to tap into them in case of emergencies. So therefore, make sure to invest them in something stable so they don't fluctuate, and make sure to invest them in something that gives a positive interest or dividend back, and for God's sake, make sure that you invest them in something liquid so you can access it if you need to. So the third thing you should do is differentiate between needs and wants. It's very important that you note this because you can always cut down on your wants but not your needs. A quick tip here is that in your needs category you have groceries, and actually you can cut down on your cost and your expenses at groceries if you buy in bulk. So make sure to buy for an entire month or a week of groceries instead of going out a couple of days sporadically, because this will end up in you spending your money on something that you shouldn't. Something that belongs in your want category and not in your needs category. And as we talked about early in this video, it's very important that you learn to control your spending behavior. So always budget, monitor your spending behavior, and correct it accordingly. And keep yourself up on it. It's very important that you stick with the program and you don't overspend. So now you've created the budget. You made sure to pay into your tax-deductible retirement account. You made sure to pay yourself. You made sure to pay for the necessities and as little as you can for your wants. Now it's time to talk about debt payoff. So there are two ways you can pay off your debt. There's the avalanche method and there's the snowball method. The snowball method has proven to be far greater for people who lack motivation to pay something off. So the way it works is that you pay off the debt with the least principal left, and once that's out of the way, you tackle the next. The avalanche, on the other hand, is actually the more logical choice, but it's not good for people who lack motivation because psychologically it's way harder. But if you look at the numbers, it's the more logical choice because here you tackle the debt with the highest interest first. So in that way, you actually end up saving way more. But for most people, I would say stick with the snowball method if you don't have the motivation. But there's way more to the debt payoff than just the avalanche and the snowball method. Sure, you should pick one of these methods and start paying off debt, but debt payoff actually is a way larger subject that I probably will cover in another video. But the basic principle of this is actually what I want to get into is there's two forms of debt. There's good debt and bad debt. Personally, I would say that good debt is anything under 4%. Some might go as high to say 5%. And when you're dealing with debt with an interest rate with under 4%, you should definitely pay off as little as possible and make sure that the saved amount you have left over is invested in some kind of investments that yield a larger interest or dividend than 4 to 5%. This way, your investments actually end up paying for your debt. And that is what good debt is. Bad debt is consequently anything over 4 or 5%. But this is a larger topic that I'll probably cover in another video. Good debt, bad debt, how to negotiate a lower interest instead of paying off the entire thing. Essentially how you can transform your bad debt into good debt by negotiating the interest rate. This again will lead into talks about how to negotiate debt, and I will of course cover that topic as well in a later video. So keep tuned. Remember to hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I release content. So the fifth step is you smashing that like button. It helped me out with the algorithm. And also remember to subscribe if you haven't already and click the notification bell as well to get notified every time I release new content. So now you've probably paid off your debt, or at least all the bad debt. When you paid off all your bad debt and only have good debt left, paying the lowest you can to your creditors, the next thing you should do is invest it in some assets. But only after you covered your emergency fund. You should always have an emergency fund, but the amount after that, the additional cash you have on hand, make sure to invest them in some assets. So there are different things you can invest in. There are different asset classes, and these may correlate, and it's very important that you invest in something that don't correlate, because true diversification is in different asset classes that doesn't have any correlation. I will cover this in another video, but it's very important that you understand this. If you have 100 stocks in different beverage companies, that's not diversified. In order to achieve real diversification, you need to invest in different asset classes that has a different correlation. They should not correlate. There should be no correlation between the two asset classes. An example of this could be stocks and bonds. Stocks and bonds react opposite to each other, so there's no correlation. They don't follow each other. There's a lot of different asset classes you can invest in, but it's important that you make a well-informed decision, make sure they don't correlate, and make sure that the risk is something that you can tolerate. Because there's different kind of risk with different types of assets. That's not the only kind of investment that you can make. Something you should definitely consider is being a business owner, creating your own business or side hustle depending on where you are in life. This will give you basically far greater tax advantages, which in the end will increase your overall fortune. So keep that in mind when you are making your investments, what you are best served with. Creating your own business can be far more profitable than any regulatory investment that you can invest in. So this is definitely something to keep in mind just in the future when you reach this point. There are different kind of entry levels financially for different kind of businesses. So make sure to do your research. So question of the day, what kind of video would you like me to create? Leave it down in the comment below and I'll definitely check it out. So I promised you a bonus. I will give you a really quick overview on how to pay off your debt faster than you thought possible. The first thing you can do in order to reduce your debt is negotiate your principal. And if you haven't paid any installments to your creditor in a while, this is actually something you should consider doing, because they would rather get some of their money than none at all. So this is an opportunity for you to cut your principal down and in that order reduce your total debt amount. So the second thing you could do is negotiate the interest. In some cases you can actually negotiate the interest and thereby saving you a little bit of money. This is actually good with large debt, because you can convert your debt with the blink of an eye into good debt. If you have an interest of 8% and convert it into 4%, I would basically consider it good debt. The third thing you can do is negotiate the duration. This is really good if you have something like a large debt amount with a low interest and a small debt amount with a high interest. It would be a good idea to take the duration of the large debt amount and put it up so you have smaller installments, and take the amount saved and put it towards your lower debt pool with the higher interest rate. In this way, you actually end up saving a lot of money. So that was all for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you got some value out of it. Please do comment if you have some suggestions of what kind of financial or economical topics I should touch next, or if you have any general questions. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button. It helps me out a great deal with the algorithm. And I'll see you on Monday. I'm Aatlas, and this is the World of Finance.